Hi, everyone. Welcome to GRC Summit 2020. I am Satya Boba, AVP in Cloud Operations at MetricStream. Been with MetricStream for some time and been part of the platform, building products and cloud operations. Today, along with Samir from our Amazon Cloud Web Services, we will be presenting building a resilient GRC programs in a digital world with cloud. So in the last 5 years or so, there has been a big leap in the cloud transformation. Um, the landscape has changed dramatically, and the cloud has become a mainstream now, and it has rapidly growing. And as organizations are embracing the cloud transformation and the cloud first strategy, right? MetricStream cloud journey started about 6 years ago. We The platform as service and software as service sort of empowered in cloud. So cloud providers are also able to provide the greater resilience, security, scalability, and availability, and more importantly, the flexibility than the traditional internal IT groups could provide, right? And they're also more focused on architectural efficiency and orchestration and the agility than the typical, IT groups could give. And Amazon Web Services is clearly the leader in this space, and we picked them for our journey. And what we are seeing is that in a traditional IT, what we would expect from traditional IT, now people are looking for cloud providers to give. And then the IT is morphing into more of a governing, security governance layer, if you will. And so this transformation not only helped in, with the cost, the scale, the elasticity, and the resilience it gives, right? It also reduced organizations are taking advantage of this the scale and the lower cost the cloud provides. One of the we are in this COVID situation in 2020, unprecedented times, right? What we have seen is that in March, when COVID happened, we have seen at least 20 to 30% increase in our cloud usage from some of our customers, and they were able to implement the work and then the system could elastically go up and support that without having to, compromise on the security or the performance or any of that. And we were able to make the work from home just happen just like that. And same thing with MetricStream, right? Before March, I think about 10% of our workforce used to work from home. And then when COVID, global lockdown happened, we switched all of them into working from home and the business as usual with no impact. And that is the resilience and the elasticity of, we are talking about in a GRC cloud. Here is another representation of the cloud landscape, the transformation in the last 5 to 6 years, right? As you can see, the companies are, more organizations are taking advantage of scale and the elasticity benefits that they're seeing in the modernized cloud, right? More and more transformation towards the public cloud, right? So traditional cloud is a multi-tenant, right? What it means is that you have a shared resources. You with the shared resources, you have a noisy neighbor problem, right? And there are also security concerns. And if one tenant uses more resources, then the other tenants will see a performance concerns, right? And it's also a rigid configuration. You cannot, apply a patch or things as per your particular needs, right? What MetricStream has done is it embraced modern GRC cloud, right? What it means is that you have a multi-instance cloud architecture. It gives you a dedicated instances. Your resources are basically yours, right? And with that, you have a higher security and higher performance, and there is no data commingling, right? And it is also highly configurable. You can do upgrades or patch deployments at your per your needs, right? And this is clearly a big shift and also a differentiator having a multi-instance architecture, right? So looking at why GRC cloud, right? One, if you ask what the GRC cloud promises is that you have the flexibility, right? Hassle-free data migration from your on-premise to cloud and vice versa. And also, you can manage your customers' expectations in terms of the architectural flexibility that it gives is that you can pick your hardware preferences and security preferences, right? And it is business centric. And what it is that the speed and the agility at which you could do, and it's much faster, right? And cloud is also what we have seen is that it reduces the one it's much cheaper, and also it is 1/4 faster, right? And basically what it is that the total cost of ownership is tailored to you, and of course it gives you greater security and the privacy, right? Adhering to regional and regulatory data security standards such as HIPAA and and so on. You can also manage your application, your security, your physical and network layer in a very transparent manner and in audit, which is very key for GRC, right? And of course, you have proactive risk-driven intelligence built into it, right? You can take advantage of the business intelligence and the AI in the cloud. So let's take a look at the MetricStream cloud architecture, right? On the left-hand side, you have a multi-instance architecture, and at the foundation, we are using Amazon Web Services predominantly. At the same time, our containerized strategy allows us to cater to different customer needs, right? And then operating at scale, there are two capabilities that are foundation to our MetricStream cloud. One is the cloud control plane, and which allows us to orchestrate applications across hundreds of customers and thousands and millions of end users. And these are all GRC professionals across the globe, right? And all of this, the cloud control planes takes care of your security that is needed and the provisioning and performing at scale, right? And then part of it is the cloud insights. What cloud insights gives you is that the assurance that there is someone watching the usage of the system and how the system is performing, and then if you need to fine tune it, whether it is your application or the resources and so on. And it also does resource monitoring and your security monitoring. So So looking at again the cloud insights, the highlights from MetricStream Cloud is that if you cap, right, you have a dedicated instance, you have a multi-layered security and best industry monitoring tools and data at rest and in transit encryption, and then you have third-party vulnerabilities and penetration testings that are periodically done to assess your risk, right? And then all of this with compliance and certifications with the PCI, HIPAA, and all of those standards. And looking at we talked about multi-layered security, right, and superior data protection and all of that. So what it means is that you have physical security. It's a restricted access to authorized personnel only, right? And then periodic vulnerability assessments, and you have firewalls and end protection and security audits. So I want to just walk you through one of the case study we've done. This is a case study of a cloud resilience for one of a global pharmaceutical company. This is a leading pharmaceutical company with 100,000 plus employees, and customer has deployed our MetricStream to help manage their supply chain and risk remediation, right? This is an integrated risk framework to over 50 sites globally, and risk assessments for all sites and then performed in the system. And more than 100 products are stored in our platform. And the system provides unprecedented visibility into the internal manufacturing site risks and risk assessments, issue management, as well as remediations. And the risk data is available across the enterprise, right? One of the key drivers for this cloud modernization is that the total cost of ownership, right? On-premise, the cost with the IT and having their own security and data administrations and all of that cost. They wanted to bring it down the total cost of ownership. And also the painful upgrades that were happening, and also the overall support, right? When a issue happens, MetricStream reaching their IT, and then IT sending the log files or whatever data information from the system. The turnaround time and the lag was painful, and the change management itself, right? So we I think around May last year, what we've done is that using our cloud modernization lift and shift, we have worked with them in putting a plan together in moving them into MetricStream GRC cloud, and we've done that successfully using the Amazon lift and shift to on in less than 16 weeks from initial planning to the go live. And over a weekend, we have transitioned with no user impact. And what we have seen is that it has improved their overall, you know, not only the reduce the cost, but what we have seen is 30 to 40% increase in their support downtime, and at least a 30% improvement in the change management and the security and all of that ownership now extreme, right? Come now today, in back in March, when again COVID situation has a bigger impact in the GRC cloud. So what it has done is that there was a spike in about 35% and increase in the usage. Number one, we have seen that, and second, we were able to give them, access to their work papers and so on to their some of their partners globally, and then their employees, outside auditors, and so on, so that they could continue home. So this is basically without having to compromise on the security or anything. You're just working at scale, scale to 35% increase in the usage, and be able to enable that business continuity in the system, right? There is another representative use case is that you could add on any application just like that, like a survey application or a policy application. We can deploy it very rapidly and set it up for you so that you can send surveys out to your frontline workers, healthcare, and professionals, and reach out to them and send out the surveys. There is also another use case we have seen is that advantage of the analytics that are available for you in the GRC cloud. You can feed your World Health Organization or your CDC data. You can feed into the system, and it's almost like a self-service for you. You can use the analytics benefits in the system. So net, what we have seen is that the key takeaways is that, we've not only done a modernization journey, walked the modernization journey with this customer, and they have seen the reduced costs, and they've seen the efficiency in the system, and it is resilient, right? Even with a 30% increase in the users, the system could scale and scale up with the same security assurance, service assurance, without needing to worry about it. We were able to enable them to work from home. We were able to enable them globally to access and continue their work. That is the power of the cloud resilience and the elasticity we are talking about, right? There's a lot of all right. So GRC Cloud and AWS. There's a lot of animation in this. I'll let it load this slide, right? So what does AWS bring it to us, right? MetricStream. It's not just the infrastructure or EC2 instances that they give us, but they actually elasticity that is needed in the cloud to scale up or down, or in terms of the security, and in terms of the state of the art DR and backup, and all of that, high performance, all of that. Those are the assets that they give us to build resilient GRC programs in the system. So with that, I'm going to pass the presentation to Samir from our Amazon Web Services to give us more insights into GRC Cloud and their infrastructure and security, and the machine learning programs. Thank you, Samir, for joining. I will pass the control to you now.
All right, thank you, Satya. Thanks everyone for coming and watching this video on how AWS helps customers scale on the cloud. My name is Samir. I'm a partner solutions architect at AWS, and my role is to work with security partners to help them bring new products and solutions to AWS. Today, I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to concentrate a little bit about how AWS scales and how we secure our customers. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a few examples on how customers are using machine learning today. So with that started, why are customers moving to AWS? There are really 5 different benefits when it comes to why customers are using the AWS infrastructure. The first thing is always security. Security at AWS starts with our core infrastructure, and it's custom built for the cloud, and it's designed to meet some of the most stringent standards across the world. And our infrastructure is monitored 24 by 7, and it's continuously monitored to help ensure confidentiality, integrity, and also to make sure that your data is available to you 24 by 7. The second aspect of it is really availability. Uh, we have a concept of regions and availability zones, which I'll get into a little bit, but they're fully isolated structures within our construct of what the cloud infrastructure looks like. And they're fully isolated partitions, and they achieve high availability by making sure that we have full redundancy, everything from the storage, the networking, the compute, as well as the utilities that power these different data centers, right? The third part of it is performance. The infrastructure itself is built using multiple low latency, low packet loss, high quality networks, which are actually using 100 gig fiber optic Ethernet runs, which generally have several terabits of capacity between regions. The other aspect of it is scalability. AWS compute capacity is increasing at a pretty unparalleled rate. We're adding compute of a Fortune 500 company every single day, and that increase drives the automation of our processes and makes sure that these operational practices that we're putting together uh, ensure companies don't rely or don't have to rely on multiple pieces of infrastructure all working together. It all happens seamlessly, and customers are able to take advantage of it. And finally, with flexibility, you can choose how and where you want to run your workloads. You might have customers today in the United States. Tomorrow, you might have to scale to Europe. And then a week from now, you would be having customers in Asia, and you might have to spin up a data center there. But with AWS, you can go global in minutes, and you can use the same network, the same control plane, the same APIs, and the same AWS services, no matter where you run your applications. If you then have requirements around things like residency, you're able to use things like AWS Outposts, which is an AWS service that allows you to spin up AWS infrastructure within your own data centers. Um, those are things that you can use to make sure that you can follow the principles of data residency and also cater to customers that have latency requirements. So let's get a little bit into how we then operate some of these infrastructures. AWS has a concept of regions, which is the fundamental building block of how customers need to think about where to place their applications. Um, the region is just a physical location in the world where we cluster data centers, and we call each group of logical data centers an availability zone. And each region has multiple isolated, physically separated, in fact, availability zones within a geographic area. So the availability zones are not like something that's in a separate floor across the street, but they're really physically separated by a meaningful distance. And these availability zones, like I mentioned earlier, have redundant power, networking, and connectivity, which gives customers the ability to operate production applications without having to, cross geographic boundaries, but at the same time maintain some sort of redundancy and availability by being in the same region, but spinning up your applications within multiple AZs rather than thinking about it from a region perspective. Um, in addition to this, all AZs are also connected with things that we call transit centers. So let's talk a little bit about AWS Network Design. Each data center, availability zone, and AWS region are interconnected via purpose-built uh, networks that are highly redundant. They have several terabits of capacity, and the network itself has two specific transit centers which are redundant for every region that connects into the AWS global backbone. All connections between the transit center and region, as well as the inter-AZ connections themselves, are carried over fiber, and each of the transit centers themselves are also connected to each availability zone with even more dedicated fiber. So you'll start seeing that highly redundant connections as you start looking at spinning applications across availability zones and taking advantage of the capacity on the network side of things if you have things like HPC applications running. So let's move on to security then, and how AWS helps customers be secure. And let's understand why security has been traditionally hard for customers. Um, it's really two aspects. One is the lack of visibility, and the second one is the low degree of automation. Lack of visibility really comes into play because in traditional data center environments, you're now using multiple tools and multiple silos of data to both orchestrate and uh, receive application logs or OS level logs from different silos. And you really don't have any ability to correlate all of these different signals and make sense of it. The other aspect which that leads into is because they're in different silos, you now have to go dig for this information. You might have to require some sort of an analyst that has to put all of this together to even figure out if there is an incident that needs to be looked after. With AWS, we have we have built into the AWS services things like CloudTrail and Flow logs, where all of this information is easily collected and can be centralized in a particular location and can be further automated with compute services like Lambda, which enable you to take action on an event pretty easily. So why are customers using AWS Cloud and how are they being more secure on it? So security at AWS starts with our infrastructure, as I mentioned, and we monitor and ensure confidentiality and integrity of all of this infrastructure, right? The same world-class security experts that monitor our infrastructure also maintain our broad selection of security services. And so as you build on AWS, not only are your infrastructure that you use being monitored, but also you're inheriting some of these security standards that we've already vetted against. Now, once you have that base level compliance, that allows you to scale with visibility and control with services that are built to provide centralized logging and visibility capabilities. Customers are easily be able to spin up multiple services and still maintain the same visibility and the same controls, whether it's across accounts or whether it's within a same account. And that ensures some amount of confidence as that the cloud infrastructure is operating at a very secure level. With the third aspect of it is we take the privacy of our customers' data very seriously. We have mechanisms in place to make sure that all of this data is partitioned. Customers own their own data. They can secure it with encryption keys that they own or use things like KMS, which provides server generated keys. And customers are able to use this in their workflow processes to make sure that they're encrypting data both at rest and in transit without having to do a lot of heavy. And finally, because customers are using all of the AWS services which are built to work with each other, it makes the orchestration of these different services much, much easier, which means not only can you collect all of your data, you can create actionable intelligence off of it. And then with these integrated security services, you can then take advantage of flagging malicious activity, but also take action on them. And finally, if you have partners that you use today, we have the largest security partners and solutions that are listed on AWS Marketplace, and customers are able to add to their security posture and use these different partner solutions to make sure that they're secure on the cloud. Now, AWS, as I mentioned, supports multiple security standards and compliance certifications than any other offering. This includes PCI DSS, HIPAA, FedRAMP, ISO 27017, all of these different frameworks that help satisfy compliance requirements for virtually every regulatory agency around the globe. And not only did you get the security standards that are built in, but you inherit the most comprehensive security and compliance controls to aid your compliance efforts. And AWS regularly achieves third-party validation for thousands of these global compliance requirements. And we eventually continually monitor to help meet those compliance standards. And this is across segments. This can be finance, retail, healthcare, government, and everything beyond that. So with that said, once customers start building on the cloud and they bring their data sets to AWS, and you have all of these different services that act as things like data lakes and all of these different services that can host your data, you now naturally start to wonder, what am I going to be able to do with this data? And how can I use it to benefit my customers? So Intuit, for example, has been using Amazon SageMaker for Expense Finder, and it automatically pulls a year's worth of bank transactions and finds deductible expenses using their machine learning algorithm and identifying on average a $4,300 worth of business expenses. Centralizing machine learning initiatives with AWS as well has value beyond the products and services the company provides. It also helps them foster innovation and now allows them to deploy their AI and machine learning capabilities at a much faster clip than they might have done if they were running on an on-prem version of this. So in summary, with the different AWS services that we provide and the inherent ability to scale, the redundancy that we build in and the security we provide, customers are able to take advantage of it to build innovative solutions for customers and stay secure as they move to the cloud. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Satya, for your final comments.
Thank you all for joining this virtual GRC summit. Thank you, Samir, for joining me in this presentation. So if I were to highlight, the key takeaways, right? Number one, use cloud for resilience, regardless of a GRC or ERP system, right? And second, the scale it gives, whether it is up or down scaling that you need, or security or self-service, all of that in a constantly improving manner, right? And which is what is really key for seamless in GRC business, right? Thank you so much for joining.